So how many of you started 2020 with a real sense that things were going to get better? I know I definitely did. The last few years have been tough for many people, but we always love to start the new year with a renewed sense of optimism and hope and all those sorts of things. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what do you do when your plans go horribly wrong? I think we can confidently say that the whole world's plans have gone horribly wrong for 2020. But how do you cope with those feelings of disappointment? I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of disappointment to process in the last little while, and it's not always easy. The first and most natural response is to want to blame something or someone, because blame really is the easy way out in dealing with disappointment. It provides a real temporary sense of relief, because when we don't know how to direct negative emotions and we blame, rather than process the disappointment, we convert it into blame. And we allow it to take root, and then eventually it turns into anger and then bitterness, which is a very hard root to dig out. If you just take a look at social media, you'll see blame all over the place, as people are just struggling to process what's happening in the world today. So you can blame the government for bad decisions, you can blame the Chinese for the virus, you can blame God, you can blame scientists, or perhaps there's one that we don't always really talk about much, and that's blame your partner or the ones that you live with in indirect ways. I had a giggle when I read something the other day. Somebody said they had started a fun game in quarantine with their wife, and it was called "What Are You Doing and Why Are You Doing It That Way?" And there were no winners. We've definitely played that game a few times since we started the isolation. You see, blame feels a bit like a balm to your wounds, because for a short while you know how to direct your feelings, but it really is a short-term remedy. In reality, it just digs the wounds deeper. And you end up having to find new ways to blame so that you can divert your attention away from your disappointment. So what are we going to do with these feelings of disappointment? The good news is that there is an antidote, and it's called gratitude or thankfulness. You see, blame is a paralyzing thing. You can blame something or someone, but it also means that then you are powerless to do anything about it, because the thing or the person you have blamed has got all the power. But when we practice gratitude, we are choosing to recognize what we do have, and it opens our eyes to new possibilities. Thessalonians 5 verse 16 to 18 says, "Rejoice always and pray without ceasing, giving thanks in all circumstances, because this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." Could the will of God be this easy to connect with God through the practice of prayer and to be thankful in every circumstance? Now, completely understand that it's much easier said than done. It's not like you can just switch off your disappointment by turning on your thankfulness switch. But by making a conscious effort to practice thankfulness whenever we are faced with disappointment helps us to process these feelings. When we choose to remain in the place of disappointment, we lose hope. But when we choose thankfulness, in spite of our circumstances, we begin to nurture hope. And now is the perfect time to learn the ways of nurturing hope. Let's make sure our hearts aren't overwhelmed by the weeds of anger and bitterness, but let's recognize those things that are trying to take root and replace them with seeds of thankfulness.